Well, this might actually be worse. Alright, we're going to stop this one. Alright, folks, we're going to give it a shot, even as it is, which is pretty rough, if I'm honest. But we're going to give it a shot. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Maybe I'll try tomorrow, earlier in the day. I haven't streamed at this time for ages, so it's been a while since I had to deal with this cruddy of a signal. But it is what it is. Howdy, folks. I'm Cody with IronVerse Comics. This is Whatcha Reading 12. We're going to do a little bit of cleanup, see if I can delete some of the older video of this stream. And we'll go from there. It looks like there's only the 2 streams, which is nice, because I did restart more than once. If you can hear any of this audio, bear with me. All right, sorry folks. I'm gonna delete the original setup here. That was about 10 minutes, and then I'll do what I can with this stream, and it's just gonna be as tough as it's gonna be. So that is what it is. All right, so how do I need to go back to channel content and over here and not the live one, but this one and delete. Forever! Forever! All right, it's gone. It's gone. Alrighty, well, here we are. Let me go ahead. I got to delete it off of Twitter as well. That would be, which one do I have to delete? This isn't very helpful. Oh, this is confusing. I'm trying to find which one of the periscopes I can delete. Not so great. It says both were in 2 minutes, and that is not accurate. One was far in front of the other. Whoa, whoa. I think it's this one that needs to go, so roll the dice. Roll the dice. All right. All right. So we'll move on to what you're reading. I'll do what I can. The audio hopefully will be okay. The video may be choppy. Um, the audio may be choppy. If it becomes unwatchable at any point, please let me know. I can try again either this evening or I can't really this evening. Tomorrow after work if I feel up to it. But I don't want to miss a week, and so I'm going to at least make the effort. The last What You're Reading was not all that enjoyable. This one's giving me trouble too, which is excellent. But we'll go for it, and I'll see what I can do. And if it doesn't work, right? Um, go from there. Yeah, I'll try and get down some information, and might be another quick one like last week. Just at least the cause is technical and not interpersonal. All right, where do I want to start? I touched on this series last week for a good chunk. And it's one that found me at the right time. Most reads do. In fact, we're going to be talking about a particular other read that hit the right time today, even. But it's this right here, Shaman King. Amazon Prime had it for free digitally, right? And I was looking for a new manga to kind of dive into. I'm in the holding pattern for Battle Angel Alita. That's the one I'm keeping up with the most. And I'm caught up on that finally, at least the English translations. I don't know how often it's releasing in Japan. And I got to wait till February for more Battle Angel Alita. And it got me back. If anybody's been watching these previous Whatcha readings, I've spoken a lot about the roller coaster that it's kind of become post its original storyline. And anyway, he got me back again with this last one. So I'm very excited for next February with Volume 8. But Shaman King, the concept, I saw it free on Amazon Prime, so I was like, okay, I'll download it, throw it on my Kindle, see how it goes. And hooked me from the first chapter. It had a Hellblazer vibe. We're going to talk about Hellblazer in a little bit. But it had the shonen manga goofiness and fun to it. And of course, it wasn't as dark, right? It wasn't seedy like Hellblazer is. Um, but it dealt with very similar thematics. Maybe not, again, not on the levels that Hellblazer did, but it dealt with magic. That's a big part of my life in a lot of different ways. And when I see something that's not only engaging with it in a positive way, but is fun to read, I was hooked um, right away. And so I tore through a lot of it. Follow Yu Asakura as he seeks to be the Shaman King. It becomes a battle manga pretty quick, so it becomes, pitting this evolutionary power, like Dragon Ball Z or whatever, against another, and then growing and gaining more abilities, all that. Very classic shonen manga. Um, but there were moments at the beginning, and there's moments in between those trappings where, again, it feels like Hellblazer. It'll take a minute and deal with some random ghost, some random spirit, some random power, and it's dealt with it beautifully. I spoke a lot about it this morning on the stream I did, specific moments and ideas that resonated with me through Shaman King. Um, the most recent I've read. So I've torn through. These are the first 6 volumes here. Tore through those, um, and now I'm on volume 9, and 7 and 8 are in here as well. Volume 9's focusing on saving one of his enemies. Again, it's got that shonen feel, but it's also got even more directly that Dragon Ball feel to it, where Goku doesn't really have many enemies. He has rivals, and most of the time, even his enemies become his friends. Shaman King takes a lot of that. And he's trying to save one of his friends, who was his Vegeta, I'm going to say. It's basically his Vegeta. Uh, Trying to save him from his father, which is the head of the most powerful shamanic group in China, which focuses very heavily on reanimating corpses, and not directly necromancy, because they actually have a direct necromancer, who was about the closest thing to direct evil this is put forward. Besides this guy, Tao En, besides the father here. Um, and yeah, specifically, it's kind of hard to speak about it. It's again, it's got this goofiness. The character on the cover here, Ryu of the Wooden Sword, he starts off as the bully for a bit, and then over time you get to like him, and he himself even becomes a shaman. He evolves beyond himself to find his happy place. That's his whole mission, right? And that's even why he was a prick. Um, One of the main concepts of Shaman King is you need some kind of, you get an extra perceptual awareness, some ESP, extra sensory perception, I guess. And that's how it starts off with this little kid called Monta, and he's going through a graveyard trying to get to some place really quick, and he sees Yo sitting on a gravestone, staring at the stars, and Yo kind of just says hi, and Monta starts talking to him a little bit, and then he sees ghosts all of a sudden near him, and that freaks him out. But Yo kind of explains what's going on, and they part ways, and then that's kind of the start of their friendship, and that friendship carries through at least the whole series so far. Um, in that Monta isn't a shaman, but that he can see ghosts. He's got that awareness, and that Yo, being born into a very powerful shamanic family, um, he's got a lot of burdens and a lot of weight, but he's here to join in this 500 once in every 500-year tournament called the Shaman King tournament. It justifies it as this is how we find our messiahs, the ones who flush out the old world and bring in a new one so it can grow again. Um, And that's basically the whole journey. And then you see different people competing for it. You see different ideas and concepts of what it is to be that Messiah competing against each other. You see different ways of thinking on how this kind of power should be used, fighting each other. It's got a very strong sense of this great spirit, the God of gods, the one, right? And it does it all with this respect and playfulness that I just can't help but fall in love with. I very much recommend this. If you have Amazon Prime, it's free. You can go just get the digital and throw it on, whatever device you have to read on. Very much recommend it. I went ahead and started buying the volumes because it's something I like so much. I want to be able to pick it up again very easily when I want to. Uh, it's going to be releasing Omnibus 4, I believe, next month, and I've got that pre-ordered. I'm almost done with Volume 9, so that'll be 10 through 12 next month. That'll be fun checking it out, and I'm going to keep on with it. I think there's like 27 volumes, which probably means about 9 omnibuses. So I'm going to get them as I can. I don't like leaving series incomplete unless the series is hard to read, like Trigun. I wish I liked Trigun more. It's one of those. It's just the anime communicates the ideas better than the manga. The manga is just scattered, is the best way to put it. Like it's not the focus and the flow is just all over the place, and it can be hard to read. I've had the Trigun Maximum Omnibus 1 sitting there for fucking ever. And it was really hard to get through the original arcs that were put out by Dark Horse in the U.S. It was really hard to get through those two. Um, Trigun's a toughie. Trigun's a toughie. I really love the concept. It's completely carried by the concepts and by the character Trigun. Vash is a wonderful character, and the interplay of characters can be really good. But it is just a scattered read. There's no focus. Moment to moment is just the flow is terrible. Uh, and so that's hard to read. This is clean, professional. Again, it's fun. Trigun tries to be fun and ends up still being scattered. It doesn't flow for me. Again, that sucks. It's a weird space western. I love those. Um, maybe it looks like. Yeah, it looks like the signal might have solidified. Excellent. So, Shaman King, I recommend it. Um, Wholeheartedly so far. I was warned that it becomes a battle manga, and I was like, okay, so basically, as long as it's exploring ideas, I don't care how they present them. And it's presenting the ideas through the concept of a classic shonen battle manga. Now, depending on how far it goes with that and how redundant it gets, and if it runs out of ideas, that could make this not that great. But so far, 9 volumes in, it's really good. So yeah, I could definitely recommend that. Uh, we all need a shamanic journey in our life one way or another. At least a perception of one, right? And that's a perception of one. Talking about shamanic journeys, I didn't get to finish reading this today before I got here, but I'm about halfway through. This is Hellblazer, Damnation's Flame by my favorite comic book writer, his rest in peace, uh, consistent collaborator Steve Dillon. Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon, who did Preacher, people know him from. They did a bunch of great Punisher runs. They've done some Hellblazer runs. It was a great team. Um, Steve has this art style that I wouldn't say is super magnetic and like incredible to look at. He has a lot of samey faces and stuff, but his ability to communicate was never held back by that, and that's what's incredible about Steve Dillon in my eyes. That and he does gore amazingly. But Damnation's Flame. So it's been a while since I read some Garth Ennis Constantine. It can be this series in particular. It's draining. It's so much darkness and shit and just evil upon evil, right? That John's spitting in the face of most of the time, and that's the the impetus. That's what makes it great. But it can weigh on you. It can weigh on you, and I haven't been in a position to dive into that kind of weight. Ennis does that a lot. He can do it in a few different ways. This one's metaphorical, but he's done it literally with history work. With his Punisher work, it's quite literal. With his Nick Fury work, it's quite literal. Sarah from TKO, it's very literal. And by literal, I mean realistic. It's grounded, gritty. Hellblazer, yeah, it's grounded, gritty, but it's still metaphysical. Which allows him to be a little bit play with magic a little further on the spectrum than he gets to with the more realistic military stuff he's just incredible at doing. But that can lead to some darkness I don't like Grant Morrison's work on Hellblazer that I've read so far. I can't. It's just it's dark for dark's sake, right? Grant is one that's all over the place for me. Grant Morrison is all over the place. They incredible talent, incredible talent. In fact, one of the most powerful reads I've ever read is We Three from him, and the heart-wrenching story, just fucking heart-wrenching. But the core of it is beautiful. The Hellblazer I've read of Grant's, it's not heart-wrenching, it's not beautiful, it's just sickening. And that's not something I'm into. It could work for a lot of people, I'm sure, but it's not something I'm into. So Grant's got this beautiful spectrum, and it goes from some really places I could never want to go to some other places that I'm so happy only he can touch on, right? Garth, he never misses for me, but he can be too much. Damnation's Flame is not too much. Damnation's Flame is exactly what I needed to read right now. Just like Shaman King is exactly what I needed to read right now. Just like Hajime no Ippo is exactly what I need to watch right now. I've been very lucky with the content, stories, and resonances finding me when they need to, or when I need them, maybe. And Damnation's Flame. So John just got off his high horse and he's trying to build himself his low horse. I guess the best way. He was at rock bottom for a while there in previous storylines, and this one is part of him trying to get back on his feet, but then getting his enemy Papa Midnight, or rival, is closer, but Papa Midnight wants him dead. So he's an enemy, but he's more of a rival. It's a tough line there. He fucking wants John dead. He didn't kill John, though, and he had a chance in this. Instead, he put him through a witching walk. And this witching walk is through a section of hell, a little piece of hell that he's ripped from hell, because hell is this metaphysical idea. And the idea of this section of hell that John is wandering in, just in his head, too, is the darkness of America. He meets JFK, who's holding his brains in and trying to get back to the White House. And it makes so far it's made these wonderful and hard, truthful looks at what this nation is. And Garth is exceedingly poetic when he wants to be. And when you pair him with John Constantine, there can be some things that just can't be said otherwise that can be said. And this is one of them. I'm excited to finish it. So I just hit I think the third issue of this mini series, right, or this arc. And some natives just showed up. The spirit of some natives. Oh. This again, when you talk about Steve Dillon art, it can be really cool. Not there. It could be really cool. It's just never really that complex. But his communication and storytelling is just so fucking tight that seeing the same faces again and again doesn't actually take away from it. The colorist is fine. It feels kind of flats, but that works for this story because this is a gritty. That era of Vertigo and this era of John looked like that, and it fit very well. It's not super pleasing to the eye, but it doesn't take away from it, right? I want to see what this is saying by the end, so next week we'll probably talk about that. Um, because he wanted, and as he is, if I remember right, he's a Scot. Um, Ennis obviously has a deep respect for our country and its history. That's communicated again and again in his military work as well, his military writing work, excuse me. And this is kind of like uh, there's a part in it where John's kind of imagining, and there's these cannibals who are kind of tricking him and walking. He's walking through this hell that's an imaginary America, and he something that's said that kind of it doesn't sound like that respectful, but he's talking about this woman being raped again and again in Central Park. And John kind of inquires, who's this talking about? And why are you guys just letting this happen? Blah, blah, blah. It turns out it's Lady Liberty, very directly. Um, which the metaphor in context could not have happened without this love being built into it, which is what's fucked up about it. And that's what he's communicating. Um, I really am excited to see where this lands. They were about to hit the White House and get JFK there, which was JFK's whole mission. He wants to get his presidency back. He's long dead. He's holding his brain in. It's a interesting metaphor. I'm curious where it lands. Um, and then these natives showed up, and they were hinted, talking about, is there a trustworthy white man? Why are we going to this guy? Can we find our way out of this hell? Blah blah blah. Um, no idea where it's going to land, but it's one of the more engaging Western comics I've read in a while, and I really recommend it. Now, like in most long-running series, at least good ones, you want you want some weight behind it. You want to have had a history with the character, right? And I have a huge history with Hellblazer and with John. Would this be the best Hellblazer to pick up for a first timer? Probably not. Not at all. If I didn't know why while John was down on his luck, why some of the journey that he had had before, if I hadn't had characterization of John, I don't know if this would be as good. But with all of that energy behind it, with all the energy that I've also had in front of it from different series and stuff that's newer than this, um, it's relatively perfect for me right now. Uh, so I've had I scored a bunch of these. Some guy on eBay was getting rid of his Hellblazer collection, and I was able to snag it at a good price, or about $2 to $5 a trade, which fucking incredible because some of these are hard to find. At least were hard to find. And again, I had gotten lost in its darkness and kind of didn't want to read Constantine anymore for a while there, and I decided to pick some up. And I had tried to read this 4 or 5 times. This was the stopping point, and I really wanted to force myself through these reads, and it just wouldn't resonate with me from the first page. It just was not something that would work. But I picked it up this last time, and it was the right time to read it. Um, Part of why I'm saying this. So issue number 4 of Jack is in the works. It is very much it's not only based on one of the original big deal shamanic journeys in history, in religious history and in history overall, but it is a witching walk. Um, and what I've come across recently is a witching walk. And even Epo in its own way, because of how he's working and what he needs to do and the realities he's presented with. Um, the timing's right. The timing was right for Damnation's Flame. It's really good, though. Read the rest of Hellblazer. Hellblazer is incredible if you can deal with that amount of muck and weight. If you can't, it's not going to be for everybody. These are horror comics. But I mean, the main point is giving a middle finger to evil, to this darkness, and seeing if a man can do that, play their game, play the lights game, and maintain himself, and maybe find salvation in all of it. That's it's a wonderful set of stories. John Constantine Hellblazer, just incredible. Um, what these Brits have been able to do with this character and what a lot of people have been able to do with this character is just incredible. And Garth is my favorite fucking comic book writer I've come across so far. There's a few that have touched and sometimes exceeded how he's made me feel emotionally. Daniel Warren Johnson and Murder Falcon, for one, just springs right to mind. We're going to talk about Gru again. Sergio Aragonis and Gru, completely different vibe, but respected just as much for a different reason. Um, and as Hellblazer, I can always recommend, but I just recommend Hellblazer as a whole. If you can start that series from the beginning and be able to finish it, I think you will find a lot of amazing things in there. I have. All right, we're on to the last one we're going to talk about today, and it's one that I always like including in Whatcha Reading. And I probably don't have much more to say than I've said every Whatcha Reading so far, and I will say every other Whatcha Reading so far. Sergio Aragonis, Gru the Wanderer. This is issue 41 of the Marvel Epic Comics run. It is one of the original long-running creator-owned comics. It is, to me, the best funny book that has happened. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of questions there and a lot of justification needed, but anyone who's familiar with Aragonis, his work in Mad, or his work with Gru, they know what I mean. I'm happy to see, too, that more Gru. I think it just came out last week. Uh, Gru meets Tarzan, I think, came out last week. So Aragonis is still out and making Gru the Wanderer through Dark Horse, if I remember right. And spirit of whimsy, of fun, of having a ongoing gags that work again and again, having amazing timing, having a very unique voice and word choice that you wouldn't find anywhere else. Having this very playful art that can one moment be just kind of simple and fun, and another moment be exceedingly complex, but just as fun. Uh, Fucking incredible. One of my literary heroes, just like Ennis here. But in a almost a single package. He's got this guy called Mark Evanier who kind of translates and makes it actually work, right? And tries to keep the spirit of it. Those two folks are now going to be taking questions on Gru.com, which is really cool. I'm really excited to see Gru take another foot into what is modern comics culture. I'm really excited, and I hope it goes very well. Issue 41. It was a bit of a flashback to Gru's childhood with with Granny Gru, who was a gypsy, and a bit of him meeting her as an adult and how not much has changed. The moral at the end of it is you're never too old to get spanked by your grandma. So you can kind of get the idea of the whole issue from that. It's just a bunch of gags of Gru trying to help his grandma, and remembering times where he tried to help his grandma as a kid. And by help his grandma, so this is the classic negative connotation of a gypsy, which is a trickster, a hustler, quite often a thief. So it's not the most politically correct take of a gypsy, but it is what was a classic one, and it was done with this kind of loving fun to it. And it's from a different time. You're not going to see this kind of Gru again. I very much doubt that. But I'm so glad it exists. It's a fun issue. As I've said almost every time I talk about Gru, there's been issues that have been much better than others, but none of them have been bad. And that this one is one of the big chuckle I had was at the end with the moral. That one, I was like, yeah, it makes sense. That's the moral. Because usually it's a more complex idea behind the moral, right? But this one was just all playful. The entire issue was playful, and that was the point. And that was cool to see. I'm excited. I still got a little bit more Gru to go through. And as long as I have more Gru, we're going to be talking about on What You're Reading at least one issue a show. Um, More people need to read it, especially if you're wallowing in a lot of the darkness and unfun things that are at the heart, sadly, of current comics culture. Um, this'll this continuously reminds me of what a funny book should be, and when I say funny book, I don't mean every comic needs to be like it. No, I mean comics can be this, and that's harder and harder to find these days. Um, in fact, it was probably hard to find then. You had to go independent. In this case, Marvel's independent imprint. So I've had an argument with a guy that this was not independent, but it was creator owned, and it was their imprint that allowed uh, what would still be considered independent work in my eyes. So is what it is. But yeah, pick up Gru. I used to say, if you find it in the dollar bin, pick up an issue, and I still say that. But I'm finding it more and more unlikely you will find them in the dollar bin. So if you find a good price on a trade, always pick those up. That's for damn sure. If $5 for like a Gru trade is an incredible deal. You have a lot of fun and you'll want to read it again later. Um, and if you can find single issues for that dollar cover price right there, do it. Incredible funny book. If nothing else, it's 5 to 10 minutes of your time that won't be wasted. You might not get a chuckle a second, but you should get a chuckle out of it. And honestly, that's all I can ask from honest creativity and persistence. So yeah, that's what I've been reading. I've been reading Shaman King. Been reading this Hellblazer. Read some Gru. Haven't been able to dive super hard into a bunch of other reads. But I was glad to get into these. Last week I spoke a little bit about saving the world. I'm going to suggest you folks check out Tonic Comics again. Hopefully here soon I will be able to do an IronVerse Quickies, diving into this a little bit better. Last week was a 35-minute episode of Whatcha Reading, Whatcha Reading 11. I do talk about it, though again the chat made me have significantly less fun than I usually do talking about Whatcha Reading. So I didn't get out as much information as I had wanted, but I got out some good info. And yeah, I think that covers it today, folks. I don't know if anybody's been watching. I had to, of course, switch the video and all of that. Uh, Switch the stream. I had to cancel a stream and then go into a stream, into a new one, and that did seem to eventually steady this stream, which is excellent. I'm glad it worked, and hopefully the communication has been working just fine as far as I can tell. I probably did lose some watchers though, which depressing, but it is what it is. But if you folks are here and are enjoying it, I would appreciate knowing what you're reading. Put it in the chat before I take off, and we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I've got one smaller thing to talk about that wasn't covered on this morning's stream that I'm happy to talk about, but then we'll probably close it. So let me go ahead and talk about that, and then we'll say goodbye unless somebody wants to share what you've been reading. I hope you've been reading something good. Yesterday, New Comic Book Day. I hope you received your new comics. I've heard Diamond has been being Diamond, and so making it a little bit harder for some shops to get their books on time, which is never fun. But if you got your books, I've heard some good ones. I heard Spirits of Vengeance. I think it was still called Ghost Rider. Spirit of Vengeance Ghost Rider or something like that, with the new native Ghost Rider. I really love the cover of that and the character design and just what they did with that. So I would love to hear more. I've heard some people really liked it. I know nothing of this character, this version of Ghost Rider, but it's right up my alley. So I would love to hear about that if anybody's read that. Even later, down in the comments, if you come across this and watch it, let me know. Anywho, let's go over here. Oh, I already had display capture on. That makes it easy. So, just remind folks, if you haven't seen, pre-launch page for Jack Iron Steel Cowboy issue number 4 is up and going. It's ongoing to get tweaked. This isn't the final. I also hope to add closer to Launch Go a actual incentive for the sign up. And if you sign up now, you'll still be included in that setup, that sign up bonus. I just haven't 100% figured out what I want that sign up bonus to be. Last time I did a secret perk that was much cheaper. I'd like to do something like that again, but we'll see. The main goal with this one is to combine what I attempted with the Kickstarter in terms of having solid footing in every aspect, budgetary wise for sure, with the fun, enjoyment, and just freedom that I had with issues 1 through 3's campaign. So please do, if you haven't already, sign up. It's not going to hurt you. I'm not going to bombard your email with anything. Link is now in chat. Spread it around if you would too. It'd be great. I need everybody's help to get this done again. We'll see what we can do. I'm really excited for the storyline, all that. I communicated this morning. We did a 3-hour live stream talking about this, and I would love your folks' input on everything in that stream if you have the time and interest. But, anywho, IronVerseComics.com, you can click right up there, take you to the pre-launch page, and you can sign up. That was the one little thing I added there. You can also go to crowdfunding and click on it right there if you'd like. I'll hopefully be updating the news and updates section of the site today with this kind of information. If you're unfamiliar with IronVerse Comics, you can start your journey either place here or here. And I'm excited for our future. It's got a lot of cool plans, a lot of cool stuff coming up this month and next. And I'm very hopeful that we get to continue our journey together. That would be great. But you never know, and I'm just, to quote you, Asakura's kind of philosophy, everything will work out. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with this go. I'm not going to be pushing things as hard as I was with the hardcover Kickstarter in terms of trying to carry all the burden and weight myself. But let me see. In fact, I need this back on now. You're here. I know you are. There it is. Boop. There I am. Hello. All right. So that does indeed cover what I've been reading. Nobody is in chat letting me know. So I guess I'll call it here. Let me go ahead and go up here, down here. Boop. And we'll see what it's looking like. It's another short, under an hour stream, huh? Well, that's okay. If you folks have read any comics, this is your last chance to let me know. I'd love to talk about them with you. Otherwise, we'll keep this one short as well. Hopefully, it won't be as choppy as it could have been earlier. Hopefully, it kind of covers some of what I've been reading well enough, at least as well as I did last week. And I hope it kind of shares some of my passion for this medium, and in this case, specific parts of this medium. You'll rarely see me force myself through a terrible comic, so it's very rare. I don't even know if I've had a Whatcha Reading where I've talked about a comic that sucked. So if you see them on here, I recommend them. Basically is what I'm going to say. So this week it was Sergio Aragones's Gru the Wanderer, issue number 41. It was issues 1 and 2 of John Constantine Hellblazer, Damnation's Flame. It was volumes 1 through 8 of Shaman King. Though I can honestly say it's probably only really volumes 7 and 8 if you really want to talk about it. I talked a little bit of volumes 1 through 6 last week, but it kind of all came together this week, so I talked a little bit more of it overall. And we'll be talking about Shaman King Volume 9, the rest of Damnation's Flame next week, and then whatever else I can get a hold of. Certainly more Gru. And thank you folks for joining me. I hope you enjoy this later down the line if you're watching it. As always, comment below what you've been reading. We don't have to discuss it live. I'm happy to discuss it with you in the comments. Use the like, do the share, do all the good stuff to help the channel grow. The better footing we have here, the less I have to rely on outside footing to help with our own work. And that's the dream. The dream is to be as self-reliant and as perpetual as possible. And just want to thank you all for joining me. And I'll see you on that rusty trail. You folks take care, and thank you, thank you.